pup does. Okay? So volunteer opportunities range from doing what we're doing to cleaning their mews, which is where they stay. The ICU, there's opportunities to do social media, a variety of things. Even though you guys are way down here, we have people that come from Ohio, come from an hour or so away. It's not a great lot of commitment, but it's a very unique experience to get to learn about these birds.
All right, so this is Frankie. Frankie is an eastern screech owl, and I just woke him up to get him out of his box, so he's looking at me very confused right now. Hopefully he'll start talking. When he wakes up a little bit, he might start talking. He's a very vocal little guy, and I'd like for you to hear the sound because people hear screech and they think it's this really horrible sound, and it's really not a horrible screeching sound. It's kind of a little chatter. But anyway, so among the kids, how many of you kids think Frankie is a baby? You guys think Frankie's a baby or a grown-up? Looks like a baby, doesn't he? But yes, he is a grown-up. So this is as big as Frankie will ever get. He is Frankie as a screech owl is one of our smallest owls here in Indiana. These guys are really common. There's probably a dozen of them around us right now, but we don't know it because they're so well camouflaged. And we bring this, are you awake? Yeah. There he's yelling at me now. He doesn't like the bark, but that gives you an idea of how well he can blend in with a tree. So these guys come in 3 different color patterns. There's gray, which is Frankie, and there's brown, which he's got some brown, but he's not the brownest. There's a browner color variation, and then there's red. We do have all 3 of the morphs, the color morphs around here, but the grays are the most common because of the trees that we have in this area. If you go down south where there's more cedar trees, they might tend to have more of the red-faced screech owls down there. So screech owls are cavity nesters. When it is time for them to nest and lay eggs in the spring, they take a hole in a hollow tree, or they take a hole that's been hollowed out of a tree by a woodpecker or another owl. That's where they like to nest. And that's actually how Frankie came to us. In 2018, Duke Energy cut down a tree, and he was in a cavity in the tree. And when the tree fell, it broke his left wing, and you can kind of see that his wings hanging at a funny angle. So he can fly, but not for very far. So he can fly in his enclosure at Soarin Hawk. He can fly around that enclosure from branch to branch, but he couldn't hunt in the wild. So he lives with us full time since 2018. He is an adult. We don't know how old he is. Raptors and owls and hawks all reached full size in year 1. So we have no way of knowing really by size how old they are. Another interesting thing about almost all raptors, and you're going to see an exception, but almost all raptors are not what we call sexually dimorphic, meaning you can't tell the girls from the boys based on color. Kestrels are an exception, and we're going to show you a kestrel here in a bit. But we think Frankie is male, and we think that because he is based on his weight. So male raptors tend to be 20 to 30% smaller than females. So we kind of, with a lot of our birds, we take a guess. We're sometimes wrong. Another bird I handle is one of our hawks, and she got the name Hawkeye because everybody thought she was a boy, and then she laid an egg, so we knew that was wrong. But we think Frankie's a boy. So owls obviously are nocturnal. We all know this. These guys are actually most active they're crepuscular, so most active at dawn and dusk, but they are nocturnal. So Frankie doesn't have the brow ridge. Cheryl was talking about that brow ridge that always makes hawks and eagles look kind of angry. Obviously he's not out in the sunshine, so he doesn't need that sun protection. Instead, owls have a facial disc, that kind of round looking face, and that's more prominent on some owls than others. But the idea behind the facial disc is those feathers funnel sound back to their ears. Owls have incredibly powerful ears. These are not their ears. I'm risking a finger here, but these are not Frankie's ears. Those are actually just ear tufts. The scientific name is plumicorn, which to me sounds like a Pokemon, but it's not. These are just, the ear tufts are just for camouflage. They kind of break up the roundness of the head as against a tree. And they also can use it to show mood. So when Frankie's ear tufts are up, he's reasonably relaxed. He's not thrilled to be here, but he's not angry. If he was mad, he's like a cat. His ear tufts would go down if he was angry. And that has happened. But What else? So Cheryl mentioned owls and hawks, their eyes, they cannot move their eyes from side to side because their eyes are so big to accommodate the number of rods and cones that they have to have for their vision. Their eyes are fixed in their skull. So that's why they have the head movement. You guys have heard that owls can turn their heads all the way around, right? It's not quite 360. If he turned his head 360 degrees, it would pop off just like ours would. But owls can go 270 degrees in both directions. So it's almost, there he's doing it now. He can almost turn his head all the way around. And that allows him to have good vision from side to side, even though he can't move his eyes. And the reason they can do that is owls actually have 14 neck vertebrae, which is twice as many as we do. We only have 7. Fun fact, giraffes only have 7 neck vertebrae. They're just huge. So owls even have twice the neck vertebrae that giraffes do. So that's just a fun fact about owls. So anything I'm forgetting about owls generally? Are you ready with Georgie? All right, well, we're going to bring out our next bird. Frankie's pretty chill. I'm going to keep him out. So if anybody wants to come up and see him up close afterwards, you certainly can. Can't touch him, but you can definitely get a picture or come up close if you want to. So.
This is Georgie, and she is, you think she's a hawk?
Falcon.
Well, she is a relative. She is the smallest falcon. She is the kestrel, as Kristen mentioned. This is the bird that does have the ability, we can tell the difference whether they're male or female. Georgie is a female, and the family that owned or found her named her. But she is mostly the brown. The males, like Georgie's head, have bluish gray feathers. So we can tell whether they're male or female. So Georgie's been with us since 2020. She came in as an orphan. Again, we don't know how old necessarily, but so since 2020 we think she's around 4 because she was young. But she, if you watch her head, she has kind of a head tilt, and that's kind of a neurological disorder, and that's called a rouse. And that is when they're comfortable, they want to rearrange their feathers, they will do that. Georgie's one of our greatest ambassador birds. She is made a great ambassador bird. We think she was imprinted by humans before we got her. She is very, very easy to handle. A lot of the first-time handlers will start with Georgie. So she's just a really easy bird. If you notice the striping on her face, that's similar to what football players use on their face, and that helps block the sun out. Georgie's got a couple of unique, falcons have a couple of unique details that they do. When they fly, they hunt by day. When they fly, they can hover over their prey. And then they drop tremendously down to catch their prey. Now, unlike the larger birds, they don't kill their prey with their talons. They kill their prey with their short, sharp little beak. They snap the neck. These guys mostly eat small rodents, smaller insects. So they will typically eat about a mouse a day. If they have a family and they're feeding, can feed 4 times that, maybe a day if they have 3 or 4 babies. Imagine what that would do over time, over a year, how many mice we can get rid of. She also has a unique ability. She can see ultraviolet light. So that mouse running through the field leaves a urine trail because they are using that to find their way back. These guys use that to hunt the mouse. So they have those 2 unique properties. Georgie right now is, her tail feathers are just starting to come back in. She's molted, so she usually has a little bit longer tail. This is what their tail would look like. They're commonly found around here. If you notice birds on the power lines, if you look for this part of their chest, they also kind of bob, and that helps them balance. And their tails will do this. So you can kind of see that that would be a kestrel. The one thing I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about rehab, 90% of the reasons we have our birds is because of car strikes. What happens is that bird is finding a mouse across the road, and that's all they focus on, and they're going after that mouse. They don't know what a car is, for one thing. They're not turning their head to look, so they are hit by cars. There's a way that you can stop some of that, is don't throw your trash out your window, especially if it's food. Even though that's biodegradable, that mouse is going to come out and eat that food. Well, that hawk, whatever, sees that mouse and it's coming down to get the mouse. So that's one way to stop. The other way is if you are using poisons at home, that mouse isn't going to die instantly upon eating that poison. It's going to run out in your yard, run out in your field, and these guys are going to eat, and they will get poisoned. That's a very difficult thing to have them recover from. And if you're hunting, don't use lead. So find other things. Again, lead is highly poisonous to birds. They don't know why that animal's laying there. They just see a free meal and they grab it. Okay? So those are a few ways that you all can help on your own. Any questions about Georgie?
Do they have fish?
They don't do too much on fish. It's probably too big for them. They mostly do, like I said, small rodents, mouse, grasshoppers, small
We're
insects.
at the lakes, we just saw a diving, a bird that just dove right down into the lake.
Probably an osprey.
Oh,
Was it pretty good size?
pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably an osprey. An osprey is often confused with an eagle sometimes, except they have a white body where an eagle does not. The ospreys are very popular around the lakes. Eagles are very popular by the lakes. They will go into the water as well. And unlike, it amazes me, they go into the water and then they can get out. You'd think that they would not be able to. I've seen pictures where even eagles have such a large fish that they can't pull it out, but they'll use their wings and kind of swim to the shore to get out. So, but that's probably what you saw, was an osprey.
Do they have any specific mating dances?
I don't think so. No. I mean, I don't know. We have not, our birds are not paired with anything. We are not allowed to mate them. We are a rehab facility. We are not licensed to allow them to breed. So we don't see that. I don't know what they do in the wild. And overall, just based on the wild, lifespan of birds are about half of what they are in captivity. These guys are well cared for. They're weighed on a regular basis, so if they get too heavy, sometimes their food is monitored, and vice versa if they're too light. So they get enough food, and if they do get sick, we have medication for them.
Do they screech? Do they make a noise much?
This one doesn't. No, they do. They have a. It's a very high-pitched, similar to what you might hear out of a red tail, except not as
Not
loud. Yeah, but you can hear them in the flying I can't do their, I'm not good at imitating bird sounds. So, okay. All right, we'll go next group come up.
Right. Yeah.
This is Orion. Does anybody know what kind of bird this is?
Red-tailed hawk.
That's right. This is a red-tailed hawk. This is the most common hawk species in the United States. These are the ones you see most of the time if you see them flying, soaring overhead. They tend to be around open fields and the edges of woods. They make their nests in trees, at the tops of the trees so they can see all around them. They like to eat rats, squirrels, sometimes rabbits. She's particularly fond of snakes. She likes to play with snakes. Orion came to us in the summer of 2015. She was just a first-year bird that happened upon somebody's house and was sitting on their windowsill screaming at them, asking for help. So they called us, and it turned out that one of her eyes had not developed fully, so she can't see out of one eye. She's fully flighted, however, but because she's can't see out of the one eye, she can't hunt effectively. So that's why she's here with us as an educational bird. And you can see on her, like in the build-a-hawk, you can see across her eyes the ridge there. It gives them their normal scowl look. That's the orbital ridge. And one interesting fact in the movies, when you see, anytime you see in the movies an eagle flying overhead and they make that shrill sound, that's not really an eagle, that's one of these. This is what they use for the sound of an eagle in the movies. Their sound is much more majestic than what an eagle does. She's you can tell she's a fully mature adult. She's got the bright red tail feathers. When they're first born, they have the brown tail feathers that's just like the rest of her. And then in the second year, they develop that red tail. Yes.
How much does she weigh?
She weighs about 2 pounds. She sounds like a duck most of the time. Does anybody have any questions about Orion?
So does their beak change from when they're born until they're
The beak continuously grows. We have to periodically trim the beak. They grind down the point because it'll continue on growing if they don't. It's just their beak is made of the same material as your fingernails, and so it continuously grows. And so we have to periodically go in and trim their beak.
And you're on 4%, which is why it's so good. So I will keep it off for a few moments, keep it off until you go we need it, or just power it off.
Yeah.
How do they hunt? Do they use their claws?
okay. Yeah, my chair.
Well, the way the hawk hunts is they will sit up on a perch. You might see them out on a fence post or on a telephone pole, and they'll watch for movement. And whenever they see a rabbit or a squirrel or a mouse running through the field, they'll swoop down and grab it and then take it back up to their perch to eat it.
With their claws?
They'll grab it with their claws and then tear it apart with their beak. They hold it with their claws and tear it apart with their beak. Like what Cheryl talked about earlier, where the beak is their knife and fork. That's how they eat. Again, Orion being kind of a male name, they thought it was male, and she laid an egg. And every spring she does try to nest. She will build a nest out of sticks in her beak. She hasn't laid an egg. Like Cheryl said, the only real way to tell for sure is by a DNA test. So we really don't do that. There's only a few birds that we've actually known medically that they're
This is Peabody, and he is a barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D. I always spell it because there is a barn owl, and they look different. The barn owl has a heart-shaped face, is a little bit more slender, different coloring. These guys, again, these are very common around here. They are commonly seen dusk to dawn. They're probably a little easier to see than the screech owl because they are out more during the early evening and early mornings. Unlike our screech owl, they do not have the tufts. They're easy to spot because they have the great big head, round head, and the big dark eyes. They're named barred because of the bars that are going up and down on his chest. Okay? The thing with owls that you can know if they're in a tree, they are cavity dwellers. So if a tree has a hole, there might be an owl up there. But the telltale sign of that is if, what we call it is, if the tree is whitewashed, they poop straight down, so it will run up and down on the tree bark. If you see a tree that has whitewashed, there may be an owl or may have been an owl up there. So that's one way that you can find them. During the night, of course, they're very hard to see. They have serrated feathers on the edge that makes their sound silent. They fly at night. They are not. You cannot hear this flapping. So their prey cannot hear them coming. So if you're out at night and you think you see a bird because you heard it, you didn't hear an owl. Peabody has a little different ears. They're asymmetrical, meaning that one is on high side and one is on the low side. That allows him to hear higher sounds and low sounds while he's out hunting. If you're out at night and you hear, he's got a very unique sound. If you hear him say, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" Almost. That's what they sound like. They do it much better than I do, obviously. But that's a barred owl. Peabody's been with us since 2010, so he's one of our oldest ambassadors. He also has poor vision like some of our other birds, so he can't see well enough to hunt on his own. What he's doing there, he's a little warm, so that's one way for him to cool down. So they get hot just like we do. Again, you know, they have the same vertebrae as other owls. The vision normally is quite a distance. They can't be told whether they're male or female by their feathers, only by size. He has a mate in his mew. We know that his mate is a female because she's laid eggs. She's also larger. We think that Peabody's a male. He hasn't laid eggs and he's smaller. So that's the only reason we think he's a male. He was named Peabody because at the time that he was brought in, we had a short-eared owl named Sherman. Some of the older people might know Sherman Peabody. The younger kids can look that up. So his name is fitting for his eyes as well, right?
Is that the bird that they're trying to eliminate in Indiana?
No, not that I.
Not in Indiana,
No.
but out west. Yes.
They're trying to get rid of barred owls.
These guys have. It was like northern. They're the northern spotted owl. These guys are encroaching on the territory of the northern spotted owl out west. Like I think in California,
Right.
Arizona, and yeah. So they're, but yeah, not here in the state.
Okay.
The population is normal here.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're preying on the other owl. So these guys would eat rodents. They also like to be around water, so they will do more of a crayfish. So if you see a creek, little river or whatever, good spots for them to be around. I've oftentimes, when I drive into work at 7:30 in the morning, I've seen them sitting alongside of the road on a small, I don't know how that reed holds it up, but they're sitting right there. Almost caused me an accident to stop and say, ooh, there's an owl. But anyway, they're really a neat bird to see out on the wild. You have a question? Or are you stretching?
Do they have
No. But these little things are very sharp. And when they would bite, they twist. So that's how they tear their food. And if they would get a hold of your finger, they would twist your finger.
like
Yeah, they twist. So they don't have teeth, but these beaks are really, really sharp. The talons, this is a red tail, I think. So you can come up and touch that, but this is what their talons look like. And on owls, this one in behind can move in different positions. But yeah, these are also very sharp and very needle-like. So. Okay. Is there any other questions?
What's the life expectancy?
In the wild, about 15 years, 10 to 15 years. Again, they are also prey, but you know, they're not hand-fed. They have to hunt, so if the prey is scarce, or they get an illness, or they are hurt and nobody finds them, where here they're going to, you know, he can live for a little while longer with us. Okay? Yeah.
Do you have a webcam where we can watch these?
We do not have a webcam at our site. There is one, the Peregrine Falcons downtown. That's the only website that you can watch.
AEP?
Yeah, yeah. We do have tours at our facility that you can call and arrange, that you can come out. You can't just pop out there, even though there may be somebody there. They're there doing a job. Avian care, where they're taking care of these guys, feeding them, cleaning their mews, whatnot, is there. Someone's there in the ICU twice a day. But to actually tour it, you do have to call ahead of time. And then you can see all the ambassador birds we have. So if you guys have any other questions or